Well, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me for Revelation, our study. Going to ask you to do something special for me this evening. It's going to be a little bit of a different kind of a time together, both this week and next week. And, well, maybe the best way for me to explain this is just show you this next frame. We are establishing the new Restoration School of Biblical Studies. Many of you have seen that, perhaps even gotten a mailing about that. Some of you are actually students and do that along with us, and I'm so very, very thankful for you. But I'll tell you what's up. We are redesigning the School of Biblical Studies so that there are 12 lesson packages. And the reason for that is because we hope to, in April, put all of these online or as we build them so that you can have them and you can go through these particular courses on your own at your own pace. But as I've looked back on what I've got, hi Cindy Patton, as I've looked back on what I've gotten with regards to the book of Revelation, I need one more lesson in order for us to have a package of 12 for the first section. I really wanted my first section on the book of Revelation to run through chapter 4, because that would take us through the first 3 chapters that deals with the churches. Chapter 4 is the throne room scene. And so I really wanted that to happen. I wanted a package of 12. But in order for that to take place, I needed to have one more lesson. So tonight we're going to have an introductory lesson to the book of Revelation, even though we've been studying it for months. Because in the recording then, I'll take that and I'll splice it in and we'll put it at the front end, if that makes any sense at all. But I wanted to show you what we're hoping to do. Coming January the 3rd, here are the 5 classes that are going to be offered live. We're going to start a study in the book of Genesis. That's going to be a survey kind of a study. That's going to have these special pictures that Gabriel draws for us. I think you'll enjoy that, those of you who want to participate. And then we're going to continue in the book of Revelation. But I don't want to start chapter 8 until the 3rd of January. That's why I'm kind of fudging on the next 2 weeks, okay? So that we can have a complete package there. And then Last Days, it was called Last Days Live, but come January 3rd, it's going to be called Last Days Topics. And we're for 12 weeks, starting the first of the year, we're going to look at the subject, how to home church. How do you go about that? What are some of the significant problems and hurdles you got to overcome, etc., etc. 2 Corinthians will continue, but I'm also kind of holding back and fudging a little bit there because I don't want to start until chapter 6 on the 3rd. So we're about to close out chapter 5, but that's how that'll work. And then the reading assignment is going to be marital blisters. I wrote that years ago, and it has to do with marital blisters. Some of us marry and have marital bliss, and I got to be honest with you, for the last almost 38 years, I've had marital bliss, but there have been a few blisters along the way. This deals with marital issues, marital problems, how you work them out in God. But again, by way of introduction. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to flip into the next slide, and when we go to the next slide, I'm going to pretend like we're at the very beginning of the book of Revelation, because this particular recording then is going to be sliced into those opening 12 sections with regards to the introduction to the book of Revelation. Does that make any sense at all? All right, so everybody put on your pretend hat. We're going to go back in time and pretend like we are absolutely starting afresh with the book of Revelation. Cindy, you ready to go? Love you guys down there in Louisiana. Hope you're getting warmer weather. You know what I'm going to do before we do that? I'm going to shine my glasses. Who is that? That's Margie, and I got my glasses off. I can't see. Margie, thank you for watching. I appreciate you too. I don't know if you heard what we're doing, but I'm about to pretend like we're at the beginning. Okay? Here we go. Welcome. Thank you so much. Joining me for the study in the book of Revelation. We're going to take, in this particular class, we're going to take and borrow from this book that Gabriel and I have written on the book of Revelation. We call it Revelation Realization. This book is designed to take picture clues and help you to relate to each of the chapters in the book. And so what you're going to see in the next little bit is you're going to see 22 picture clues, because there's 22 chapters, each of them representing a theme from one of the chapters. And then at the very end of this, I'm going to divide all of those picture clues into 4 groups and show you how I see the book of Revelation playing out with regards to 4 parts of the book of Revelation, okay? This will make a really excellent introduction to the book of Revelation so that you can kind of get it in your mind in a summary kind of a way before we actually begin looking at it in a verse-by-verse way, all right? Now, these slides have got a lot of information on them, and they go really, really slow because I don't know if it's because my computer's slow or just because there's so much information that's available there. But I just wanted you to know that if you see them and I click this thing and it doesn't go fast, it's because of that, all right? Again, As you see, most of the time it's going to be the black part, the one that's really dark, that represents the number. And what Gabriel has done is he has taken the number and he has created a picture, the number from the chapter, and he's created a picture to help us understand what that particular chapter is about in the book of Revelation. So again, what I want to do first is I'm just going to cover the 22 kind of in a bop kind of a way. And then at the end of this thing, I'll divide them out and show you how the book of Revelation actually comes through in at least 4 different stages. As we open up the book of Revelation, chapter 1, see the 1, there are 7 lampstands. And John sees this in the Revelation. Jesus is walking among the lampstands, and Jesus is going to give John an assignment. And he's going to say to John, I want you to write down what I am about to say with regards to the church, that which is happening and that which is yet to come about. And I want you to write this stuff down. So in chapter 1, see the lampstand in the middle, chapter 1, 7 lampstands, they represent the churches. And that's pretty much the package with regards to chapter 1. We don't actually get into writing the letter yet. As you transition into chapter 2 then, you can see he's taken that. You see the arrows on both ends. We began writing the letters to the churches. And so in chapter 2, we're going to open up and we're going to begin there's 7 of them. And so we're going to begin the process of Jesus writing to all the churches. There's actually, I did a series on this also, and it's a different thing, so you won't cover it right now. But there are several things in these 7 churches of Asia, the letters to the 7 churches of Asia. There are 7 commonalities that he says to all 7. And one of them is that all 7, he says to them, be conquerors. One of the purposes of the book of Revelation is to prepare us to be conquerors. Somebody once told me years ago, if you want to summarize the book of Revelation, maybe the best summary is, we win. Well, in order to win, we got to be conquerors. All 7 churches, he says to them, be conquerors, be conquerors, be conquerors. As you then come into chapter 3, again, you see the 3 here. It's pretty awesome, or pretty obvious, I guess, is the point, what's happening here. But in chapter 3, at least my viewpoint is dominated by the lukewarm nature of the church at Laodicea. Now, there's a good church that's actually mentioned in chapter 3 as well, Philadelphia. But in this particular chapter, the one thing that sticks out for me, and the one thing I want to remember so that when I am in the process of studying the book of Revelation, or maybe I'm out and about and having a conversation with somebody about the book of Revelation and I don't have my Bible with me, whatever it may be, I can actually cite a particular chapter so that it's not just my opinion. It's God says this in Revelation chapter 3. He tells us don't be lukewarm. So in Revelation chapter 3, the main idea, the theme, is this idea of lukewarmness. So again, by way of review, and by the way, that's an end of a section. By way of review, he begins the vision, sees the 7 lampstands. Jesus gives him the assignment to write these letters. He begins writing the letters. And then he continues writing the letters until he ends with Laodicea, the last church, and he says, don't be lukewarm. That's one of the primary messages of that. Then we open up with the next section, which you'll see at the end of this. But the next section is the throne room of heaven. Awesome, awesome picture of God, his throne room, what that's all about. Obviously, you can see the 4 upside down. At least I hope you can, okay? It's just an awesome scene. It's one of those scenes that makes you kind of stand back and say, whoa, my God is an awesome God. As you enter into chapter 5 then, we're going to see that there is a scroll that has 7 seals. And it's pretty clear that these seals need to be broken in order for us to continue the revelation, for us to be able to see what's coming to pass. But John's upset because it seems as if there is no one who is worthy to open the scroll. And then we discover that in chapter 5, the only one in all of anything, all of the created realm and beyond, whatever is out there, the only one who is worthy to open the scroll is the slain Lamb of God. That, of course, is Jesus. And so you see the 5 here, you see the scroll, and you see the blood that is trickling down to remind us that in chapter 5 of the book of Revelation, the slain Lamb of God is the one who can open the seals. We then enter into chapter 6, and guess what happens? I thought he did an excellent job as you see the scroll beginning to open there. It's one of my favorite clues. And you see the seals are beginning to break. And we're going to begin looking through the scroll and the revelation that it contains about what's to come. And there are 6 of the seals, 6 of them, that are going to be opened in chapter 6. We don't get the 7th until later on. But 6 seals are opened in chapter 6. Okay? So chapter 4, the throne room. Chapter 5, only the Lamb is worthy to open the seals. The seals are going to be broken. At least 6 of them are going to be broken in chapter 6. Then, as we move along, and again, like I say, my clicker is a little bit slow here. As you move into chapter 7, you see the lightning bolt coming from the heavens here. This great multitude, it's an innumerable number of people are going to come out of the great tribulation. Going to be a massive revival during this time period. And there will be a multitude that comes out of the great tribulation. So you can see the lightning bolt there. That's supposed to represent the 7. Then when we get to chapter 8, we finally get the 7th seal is broken. It's opened. And we are able to hear what that 7th seal is about. Give you a hint. It has to do with silence in heaven and various things of that nature. The prayers of the saints being mingled with the incense that comes up before God, etc., etc., okay? But it also, chapter 8, as it references the 7th seal, it also uses the 7th seal to set up the openings of the 7 trumpets. So I thought this was an excellent clue. You can see how he's got the 8 over here as the, I don't know, the whatever you call that, the thing that my dad used to play the trumpet. What do you call that thing, Dad? The horn, not the horn, the barrel, I don't know, whatever that thing, the bell. I think they call it the bell. I think it's called the bell. But anyhow, you got 2 of them, 8. So you got the number 8 there. The 7th seal will be broken, and then we begin looking at the trumpets. And there's actually 4 trumpets that will blow in chapter 8. When you get to chapter 9, we're going to have 2 more trumpets. That would bring us up to 6. We're going to have 2 more trumpets, and one of those trumpets then is going to be a horrible event that we see being put upon the planet, and stingers like that of a scorpion beast that it strikes a lot of people, etc. And so we're beginning to see a lot of torment that takes place. And so we got 6 trumpets. That means we got 1 more to open, right? Well, we won't get it in the next chapter. In chapter 10, we've got a big angel and a little scroll. And John is told to eat the scroll, and as he does, it'll be sweet in his mouth, but bitter in his stomach. And there's application to that. You have to stick with me as we see it verse by verse. We'll get more information about that. But again, you see, here's the 1 and here's the 0. And so in chapter 10, big angel, little scroll. All I'm trying to do right now is give you a summary introduction so that you can get it into your head. When we get there, you'll be able to see some of this stuff. Chapter 11, 2 witnesses. And then finally we get the 7th trumpet that is going to be blown. But first of all, we need to deal with the 2 witnesses. There are 2 witnesses that are described as an olive tree and as lampstands. And these 2 witnesses, they're going to witness, obviously, and very, very, very powerful. But at the end, they will actually be killed, and the world will rejoice at their death. But then God's going to resurrect them and take them to heaven. Interesting chapter. So 2 witnesses, and the 7th trumpet will be blown. Then we transition into chapter 12, and you've got a pregnant woman, a mother, who's being chased off by the dragon. And we'll have to define those characteristics when we get there, but the dragon is pretty obviously representative of Satan, okay? So again, you see how the numbers are playing out. You see the 10, you see the 11, you see the 12. Again, I thought Gabriel did a really good job so that this can get us into a memorization mode so that we can see how each of these chapters plays out. All right, moving on then. Come on, clicker. As we go from chapter 12, into 13. In chapter 13, we've got 2 beasts. 2 beasts. You can see all the heads on the beast, and we'll define those. We'll look into what those mean when we get to that particular chapter. And one of the beasts has the power to call down fire from heaven. So you've got 2 beasts in chapter 13. In chapter 14, there are 2 harvests that are going to take place. And so you can see the wheat and the grapes, etc. So there's 2 harvests from the earth. That's kind of hard to say. As you move then into chapter 15, really good chapter, a really good clue there as well. You're going to have 7 angels, and there's going to be a new song. I thought the 5 and the harp was really good. All right. Then we're going to get our 3rd set of 7s when we get to 16. That's where the 7 bowls of wrath will be dumped out upon the earth. And in my study as I'm watching it, it seems that the wrath of God, it seems to grow in intensity. As you come from the seals to the trumpets and then the bowls of wrath, it really gets bad. And we're going to see that 7 bowls of wrath are going to be dumped, and all 7 of them will be described in this single chapter. The other two series of threes, they space themselves out over a couple chapters, but not this one. This one, you're going to see all 7 bowls in one chapter. It's a nice little, neat little bundle. It's not a nice little bundle at all, but it's a neat little bundle of the 7 bowls of wrath in chapter 16. Then in chapter 17, in chapter 17, we're going to see they've got the beast up here. We're going to see the beast and the prostitute, which is Babylon. And there's a description there of the cooperation between the two. And it's not a good union, but anyhow, we'll see that when we get there. And the cooperation between the beast and Babylon, the prostitute, in chapter 17. There's another major break then right here at the end of 17. Because as you'll see in a moment, as we go into chapter 18, Babylon is going to burn. Babylon is going to be destroyed. And so at this particular point, we began a series of chapters on the destruction mode that is taking place. Okay, so again, you see the 18. Good little clue, I thought. All right. Then from 18, obviously, we go to 19. You can see this is the end of the book. Chapter 19, War on the Beast. And in chapter 19, there are some of the most graphic descriptions that we have in Scripture of Jesus being the warring Messiah. There, finally, 22 came up. The warring Messiah. In chapter 19, it even talks about his clothes being covered in blood because of the war he is making on those who are disobedient, specifically the beast, the false prophet. These are going to be thrown into the lake of fire. Then we enter into the chapter 20 and devil down. So this was war on the beast and the false prophet, but primarily the beast is who we want to talk about here, because the false prophet doesn't seem to have any power without the beast. And so you got the war on the beast, then there's devil down. In this particular chapter, chapter 20, Satan is going to be released for a brief period of time. Then after 1,000 years he's been in chains, he'll be released for a short period of time. Then he too will join the beast and the false prophet in the lake of fire. And so that's why I'm calling these from here to here, I'm calling these the endings. When you get to chapter 21, hope is renewed because you see the New Jerusalem coming down as a bride, dressed as a bride. I thought that was really a cute picture. You can see how Gabriel has made that there, okay? And so New Jerusalem dressed as a bride, see the 21. And then chapter 22, last chapter, coming soon. And this is where John is going to say, "Come, Lord Jesus," and other instructions are given. Wonderful. And again, you've got the New Jerusalem, you got the groom, you've got the new earth, new heaven and new earth, etc. that is being pictured there. So again, I thought a really, really good clue. Coming soon. Okay. Now, I recognize that all of that was just kind of thrown at you. Whoosh. Okay. You stay with me, and we're going to cover this in a verse-by-verse pattern, and you're going to see it in little incremental statements. You're going to see it as it plays out in a more complicated fashion, but you're also going to see it as it plays out in a way that gives it more clarity to each of these things, okay? Again, my computer's being a little bit slow as it throws all of these up, but this is essentially what you just saw, okay? We started here, way back in chapter 1 with the 7 lampstands, etc., and we have traversed through all 22 chapters. Now, what I'm going to do is that when I click this button, and it's going to take forever and a day, when I click this, it's going to divide all of those 22 chapters into 4 stages. I think that these are very important for us to understand as we begin our journey into the book of Revelation, because as you see these 4 stages play out, then you can kind of pace yourself as we continue on all the way through. The first stage of the book of Revelation is, at least this is the way I've divided it, I'm calling it the churches. Because in the first stage, we've got Jesus giving the assignment to John to the churches, and then he begins writing, and he finishes that writing of the 7 in that sense. He finishes that with the church of Laodicea. And so you got that little summary area. Another reason that I've kind of put them off by themselves is because those tend to be the 3 chapters that everybody likes to study in the book of Revelation, especially if you're intimidated by the book, and I am. We tend to stay away from the rest of it because once you enter into chapter 4 and beyond, it gets a little odd. Things get, I might just say reverently, it gets a little weird. And so people like to stay from here back because they can make sense of that easy. In fact, Jesus in the opening chapter, he's actually going to kind of give us a key to help us to reference some various things. And so this is pretty easy stuff compared to here on down. But as you then move from the churches into the next section, you see that this is the bulk of material in the book of Revelation. From chapter 4 all the way to chapter 17, we're dealing with the disciplines of God. Now, some might argue that this particular chapter, chapter 4, could go up here. But it doesn't directly deal with the churches as much, the throne room of heaven. It doesn't directly deal with the churches as much as it does a setup for the context from which we get this discipline. Awesome throne room scene. And then in that throne room scene, we're going to go through the idea of who can open the scroll. Only the slain Lamb of God, who's, by the way, in the throne room scene. And then he begins to open it. And we're seeing that all these disciplines are coming down from the throne room scene. That's why I've divided it from chapter 4 to chapter 17. And again, you come through all of this, and we've got the three sets of seals that are broken, and then trumpets that are blown, and then bowls of wrath that are dumped out upon the earth, right? All of those things take place, and then after all of that happens, we enter into the third section of the book of Revelation, which I call the endings. You'll notice that the last part of the disciplines, chapter 17, we are introduced to the beast and the harlot, Babylon. And we're introduced, but there's at that particular point, there's no destruction going on. However, when you transition from here to here, the next thing you find out is Babylon has fallen. That Babylon is down. And then over here, the beast is down and thrown into the lake of fire. Okay? Over here, the great dragon himself is down and he's thrown into the lake. So this is the endings. The endings. Then the fourth section of the book of Revelation I call the beginnings, and that's pretty obvious, is because we've got we got the marriage supper that's going to take place. We've got the new Jerusalem, the new heaven and new earth. God is going to make his dwelling place with us, etc., etc. And so that's the beginning, the beginnings. And I love how that ends because there's so much hope in that, is there not? So the reason I wanted to do that with you again is because by way of introduction to the book of Revelation, I'm hoping that this will give you the opportunity to see it in its entirety. Kind of you see the big picture. And then we're going to draw back and we're going to go right into here. And we're going to see it in a verse-by-verse manner. Let me get out of the way. Maybe somebody wants to take a picture of that so that you can have that on your phone or whatever it may be, and you'll be able to see this as it begins to play out. But we're going to go right into a verse-by-verse study of each of these topics as we come through, God willing, ending up here in the new beginnings in chapter 22, and be able to say like John, "Come, Lord Jesus." Good stuff. I hope that you think that it is, and I hope that you're going to enjoy this study. I'm very intimidated by the whole concept, all right? But I really believe that this is one of the, it's not just a belief of Sonny Childs. It's stated in the opening chapter that if we will read it and hear it and obey it, that there's a blessing attached to us studying this stuff. So I'm hopeful that Gabriel's little pictures will help you to be able to organize it in your mind as we come through. I pray it'll be a blessing. Looking forward to it. This is Sonny Childs saying, be there. Matthew 16:26.